Hey everybody, my name is Zeb Wellborn, President and CEO of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. Today I am chatting with Dr. Reggie Thomas, who happens to be my board chair, but I'm going to be presenting at a conference in a week or two on burnout. And Dr. Reggie has written a book on burnout. He speaks on burnout at a variety of different conferences. He's also an expert in the stuff that he shares and does when it comes to burnout and reclaiming balance in your personal life and professional life. So with that, Reggie, I want to say thank you for chatting with me today.
Thank you. Thank you, Zeb. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so you and I chat a lot on a bunch of different things, so it's nice to kind of pick your brain about your area of expertise today. And I know you've presented at the chamber on several occasions, and we've done a roundtable around some burnout and
Hmm.
making sure that our businesses are taking good advantage of themselves. But I'm going to be presenting to chamber professionals. So one of the consistent themes that comes out in our chamber industry is that there is a lot of burnout or that they're kind of burning the candle at both ends. And I know that, and you probably would say this about me too, that I've experienced that in my role here for sure. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, how did you get involved in burnout, and why did this spark a passion for you to be an expert in this field?
Well, so before I answer that question, Zeb, I'm just going to respond to what you just said. So, working closely with you in the chamber, I watch you burning the candle on both ends. But you seem to be doing a good job of taking care of yourself, though. But yeah, to answer the question, if you've read my book, you saw that the book was built a little bit around my own story, my own journey of going through burnout. And I wrote the book in 2024. And what really motivated me was I wanted to tell my story. And and I wanted to share, how I got into burnout, what it was like, because I was starting to hear more and more people talk about it. And but I also realized that it's one of those topics that people feel like that if they're in burnout or if they're approaching burnout, then they're weak or they're a failure. So people tend to stay kind of in a closet when it comes to that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to be very vulnerable and tell my story, and so that would give people the freedom to acknowledge where they're at, but also my story is a story of recovery. So my whole life was kind of redefined, and I rediscovered myself, and actually, took my life in a different direction as a result of it, and I'm thriving today. So I felt like my story also would give people hope. And so after I wrote the book, I thought I want to do more with this. I want to go on the speaking circuit and speak to this in the business world. So my book and my keynote talks and my trainings are not just me telling my story, but also I give strategies and tools around how to prevent burnout. And then if you're already in burnout, how do you get out of it? So that's, I guess, the long answer to your short question.
Yeah, no, and thank you. One of the things that I like this is a I don't want to say like a recent topic, but it is something that I feel like people in our industry in particular are paying a lot more attention to. Is boundaries, personal health, making sure that you're taking care of your mental health, and then avoiding that burnout. And then this isn't something that's necessarily has been in existence for a while. And there's you mentioned there's kind of a stigma attached to that. I have my reasons for why it's kind of shifting in that direction, but I'd love to hear from your experience. Why do you feel like that's more of a thing today than probably was 10 or 15 years ago?
Zeb, that is an interesting question. So let me give you just a little bit of history. So it's kind of a buzzword now, but that term burnout was coined back in the 1970s, believe it or not. And it was a term that was used in the medical field. And it was used in the medical field because, doctors and nurses and PAs, they put in a lot of long hours, they deal with a lot of hard situations. So a lot of them started talking about getting burned out. And so over the course of the years, that term, it became a little bit more prevalent in other industries. But today, um, it's affecting every industry, every sector, every profession. In fact, in the Harvard Business Review, there was an article that came out last year that said that 77% of all American workers are at some level of burnout. So it started off in the medical profession, but now it's hitting all professions.
Yeah, and I mentioned so what so why do you feel like it's hitting more? Like, is there something that you can point to that is leading to that for today? What is the main reason that you feel like that's an issue today where like yeah, it wasn't as prevalent as it was years ago. I know certainly that wasn't something my dad talked about when he was in the workforce, you know. Why is that something that's prevalent today?
I think there are two things, Zeb. I think number one, I think it's always been an issue, but it was something that people could not put their finger on. I mean, I think people have always felt this, but burnout wasn't a thing, it just wasn't a thing. But now there's a term. So I think it was always there. It was one of those invisible, intangible things that, nobody talked about because there was no information out there about it. But I also think that we're hearing more about it because people are feeling more vulnerable. In fact, if you're following social media and you have contacts with people that are in the social services field, counselors and psychologists, there is a big movement today in the mental health field, giving attention to mental health. And also it's generational. The millennials, they are really in tune to mental health issues. But I also think that because of the landscape of the world that we live in such a demanding society. I think more and more people are just getting burned out. I think the environment is just more conducive to people getting burned out.
Yeah, and I think my kind of hypothesis, I love your feedback on this one, is it is like the digital environment of things where you're accessible via you have your cell phones, you're accessible via phone, email, and you're constantly have that accessibility. And I wouldn't say uh, I think it's not necessarily so much an expectation, but there's just so much more access to your work than you probably than like my dad would have experienced. You know, he went to his work, he had a typewriter, he typed on his typewriter, he was done for the day, and he got a chance to come home, and his day was done on the work day. Whereas in we have our computers that we take with us, we're home, it's on our phones, we're getting those notifications constantly. That's I think a leading indicator of that too, where there's less of a delineation between work life and home life than there used to be.
Yeah, work-life balance is a major thing, and you're right with the digital world that we live in. There's really no separation between your personal life and your work life. I mean, I talk to professionals all the time. They go on vacation and they're still working. They've got their laptops, they've got their cell phones, and so they don't truly unplug. And then when they go home at night, they're still working because there is no delineation or separation. Weekends, the same thing. So I think there's a fatigue with the fact that you don't break away from work, but I also think there's that fatigue of just constantly checking your digital devices. And I think that's emotional as well.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. And here's what I'm going to be presenting on when I go there to speak. I'm going to talk about my kind of experience with this. And like you mentioned, you've experienced me burning the candle at both ends. And I think you and I chatted about this recently, where when I started in my business, you know, I started with nothing. I didn't have, I had to grow everything from scratch. So for the course of my career, I feel like I've been working from the time I wake up until the time I go to bed. I've seen substantial growth in the work that we've done. But we also live in Southern California. Home prices are not the most affordable, and so I have a tough time kind of navigating, you know, how much time and effort to put in this stuff to get to a point where you can feel, and I don't want to say comfortable, but just where the thing that would stress me out is the financial insecurity. So making sure that you're financially stable and secure. And so what I'm kind of sharing, and especially in our industry, because our industry isn't one that's we're leaders of our business community, but um, we're also not getting the market value from the work that we provide from our business community, if that makes sense. So a lot of chamber CEOs, and we see posts about those, their salary is really low for the type of work that we do. And so I feel like there is work that needs to be done in order to move it into a more positive business situation. And then I'm navigating that with the level of extended time in the office. So do you have advice for how to think about? that. Whereas in you have to put in the work to grow your business because we're business owners, but at the same time, you need to be taking care of yourself so you can service your members in the best way possible.
Yeah, so I think one thing that I think is important is burnout doesn't necessarily happen, Zeb, from overwork. I mean, that is a component of it. And there are some professions that are more prone to burnout because of overwork. But what burnout really is that when you're working and there's not as much meaning in your work. So I think people who really enjoy their work, there's alignment, what they're doing aligns with their passions and their skills and what they sense as their purpose. That gives you meaning. And I think people are less likely to burn out if they go to work every day and there's meaning in that. But also, as you know, there are just certain things that really I don't want to say you don't have control of your time because you do. You and I make decisions every day about how we use our time, but there are conditions where you have less control of your time. For example, as an entrepreneur, you have to put in a lot of hours to grow and scale your business. Sometimes you might be working for a very demanding company. It may be a very busy culture, and you're required to put in more hours during the day. You're required to do some work on the weekends. You're required to work while you're on vacation. But what I always tell people is take these, what I call mini breaks. A lot of people, when they think of rest, they think of, okay, a week vacation or a long weekend or maybe a day off. But think about these mini vacations. Take breaks throughout the day. Go take a walk, outside. Go outside and just sit. Go to your office, close the door, turn on some soothing music. But take these little mini breaks. And what that does is that recharges you and it re-energizes you. So, and you can take a mini break. A mini break can be as little as, 10 minutes, all the way up to an hour or whatever. But you have to incorporate these little mini breaks in your day.
Yeah, I did read your book, so thank you for putting that out there, and I just finished it actually a couple of days ago. So one of the things that I um like so the first part of it is kind of like recognizing it a little bit. How would you describe to someone that they really should be paying attention to that burnout level? When do you know it's an issue? How do you identify that that's an issue that you should be paying attention to?
So there are specific signs and symptoms in burnout, and the classic definition of burnout, Zeb, is emotional exhaustion, emotional depletion. So let me just kind of give you some concrete examples. When you get to a point where you no longer enjoy your work, you find yourself snapping at people, which was not necessarily a pattern that you've had in your relationship with your colleagues. When you find yourself on Sunday night dreading Monday morning because you had to go back to work, when you get up on Monday morning or Tuesday morning or whatever the day of the week is, and you're like dreading your work and you've just lost your passion for it, that is a sign that you are either in burnout or you are quickly approaching burnout. So, when people think of burnout, they tend to think of burnout as physical fatigue, and that's a small part of it, but it's emotional. It's emotional disconnect, emotional depletion, emotional exhaustion, emotional depersonalization.
Yeah, and then I know at the end we have you cover kind of the strategies or the tactics about how to get yourself out of that situation. So you label it as the 6 R's. I'm gonna quiz you on those, Reggie's. So the 6 R's, do you know all of them off the top of your head?
Yeah, so it starts with rest. You start
Uh-huh.
with rest, and rest just simply means you got to take a break. And then there's reflection, and that one is important because um, you have to reflect, Zeb, on how you got into burnout. I always tell people there's always a cause to burnout. And so you have to reflect on what got you in burnout. Number one, you've got to do that so that you can know what corrections to make. Okay. So there's reflection. And then there's also there's renewal. You have to renew some things about your life. The biggest one for me is recalibration. Recalibration means that you can't go back to business as usual. Okay. For example, there are some people that don't have any work-life balance, and so one of the reasons they may have gotten into burnout is because they had poor work-life balance. And so even though they take time off work and they rest, if that's all they do is just rest and don't change something about their life, they're going to get right back into it. And I cannot remember the other two, Zeb. But anyway, but recalibration is the big one.
Yeah, I always have those when I have my list of 4 to 6 things. I will always forget at least one of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. But no, that's super helpful in terms of those action items. So if you get the book, you'll discover what those six are, and I encourage you to check that out too. Um, so I mentioned kind of like what my presentation is going to be about. I'm going to talk about, that I have been working from the time that I went to bed, and that's just been my work ethic since I've started. I'm trying to be more intentional about setting those times aside, to do that. Do you have any tips or tactics that are easily implementable, that people can consider? Like I was talking to somebody else where like me, I'll send emails, and you probably know this too, any time of the evening whenever I'm working on stuff or on the weekends. So one of the tactics would be like, you can do that, but then just hit the schedule send button to be sent out at an appropriate time. So that way, one, you're not doing the back and forth emails with people in off hours. So you send that one, and that's kind of off your plate for the evening, and you don't have to come back to that thing because somebody's not responding on the other end. Two, it sets good boundaries for both parties. And then three, it just helps with the mental health of things. Do you have any tactics or similar of things like that that I might be able to share with my chamber colleagues when I present in a week or two?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do, Zeb, is I have what I call unplug moments. And not only am I not checking my phone, I there are times I leave my phone at home. Like my wife and I, excuse me, my wife and I went shopping last weekend. We were out for about 2 hours, and I left my phone at home. And you will not believe just how freeing that felt, because if it's in your back pocket or you're holding it, I mean, you're getting the notifications, you're hearing the phone, you're hearing the notifications. You feel obligated to do it. So you feel like enslaved to that device. But I have unplugged moments like after 7 o'clock at night, I don't look at my phone. It goes, my wife and I, we're downstairs in the den. I put my phone upstairs by my bed, charging it because I use it for my alarm the next day. So I charge it. But I don't even look at it from 7 o'clock until bedtime, or at least the next morning. Um, and then weekends, I do the same thing. I have seasons, periods, moments when I don't even look at the phone. So I would say schedule some unplugged time, and that way it gives you a mental and emotional break.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and thank you, Reggie. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and insights in the book. It's called Burnout Pains. Yes.
Yes, burnout
And
pains.
it's available on
Amazon.
Amazon. Any other locations to encourage people to check that out?
Amazon is where you can get it. Yeah, it's not on other sites, but yeah, it's available on Amazon and it's print and also digital. So
Okay, great. And then I know that you're also available for speaking engagements on this topic as well. And like we indicated that this is a growing thing. I think that a lot of us experienced it when I was doing the research for my presentation, and also by reading your book. There was high percentage of people that are experiencing burnout or challenges in their workplace, and I think that's a consistent theme that we want to try to overcome in the chamber industry, but also overcome just as for the betterment of people and how they do life. And for our business community, one of the things when we had our roundtable, you and I were talking about trying to make sure that we had mental health resources for our businesses, because as business owners, we've got to everything relies on us and we have to make things work. And so I know you've been instrumental in trying to help some of our chamber colleagues figure out how to do that while also making sure they're taking care of themselves.
Well, it's all about information, Zeb. And so, one of the things that you'll find out there is a lot of leadership conferences. They have a wellness component and they're starting to deal with burnout. And so, one of the things that I do is I speak at conferences and seminars and summits around burnout, workplace wellness. And so, if you come in contact with, event planners, event managers that are looking for a keynote speaker that can speak on workplace wellness and burnout prevention. I appreciate those referrals and recommendations, but also I work with companies. So I go into companies and do workshops around workplace wellness as well. And so those are the two things that I do. I do the keynotes, but I also do the more extensive training as well.
All right, well, excellent. Reggie, thank you so much. And thank you for being my board chair. And hope you have a great rest of the week.
All right. Thanks for being my friend.
Of
So,
course.
and good luck with this presentation. I think you're going to nail it.